Has Earth been invaded by space aliens and their spacecrafts? Unidentifiable flying objects, aka UFOs. And officially today, they are unidentifiable aerial phenomenon, UAPs. But in 1947, they were dubbed flying saucers because the person that first saw it, Kenneth Arnold, said it looked like a saucer skipping across the water. And supposedly inside these spacecraft are aliens. We have gray aliens, flatwood monsters, little green men, the Hopkinsville Goblin. Then the Nordic aliens are very pale, tend to be blonde-haired, blue-eyed. We have the Plagiarin, which is from Pleiades, and the Venusians. Don't forget Thor. And then we have the reptilian type of aliens. This type of alien cracks me up. It's called a rod or a skyfish. And what cracks me up is 100% of the videos and photographs have been debunked as bugs. It's just the flapping wings, light, and camera angle, and shutter speeds, and that's all it is. Early history of sightings, or the modern generation grasping at straws and trying to take things out of context. Around 1450 BC in ancient Egypt, Thutmose III claimed a star came down and set fires to his adversaries. And apparently the modern generation believes that he's talking about space aliens that came to his help. And he was probably talking about a meteorite. Around 218 BC in the Roman Republic, Livy recorded ships in the sky during the Second Punic War. And the modern generation thinks he's talking about space aliens. He's probably talking about a meteorite shower. In 76 BC in the Roman Republic, spark from a falling star was documented by Pliny the Elder. It appeared the size of the moon before turning into a torch. Again, probably a meteorite. This one cracked me up. In 73 BC in Roman Republic, a wine jar-shaped flaming body fell between two warring armies. That's not a space alien, it's a Molotov cocktail. Now we're out of BC and we're into AD 65, Roman Empire. Chariots were hurtling through the clouds prior to the First Jewish-Roman War. And it's probably meteorite showers. And AD 196, Roman Empire. A fine rain resembling silver upon the Forum of Augusta was documented. I'm thinking it's a metaphor for how to describe rain when the light hits it in certain ways. Around 740 AD, in Ireland, several sets of Irish annuals documented ships with their crews were seen in the air. On April 14, 1561, in Nuremberg, Germany, they describe an aerial battle, followed by something that resembled a long black spear. On August 7, 1566, in Switzerland, a broadsheet was published depicting numerous spherical objects appearing out of the sun. On September 22nd, 1609, in Korea, multiple witnesses described a halo or washbowl that was divided into two in the sky. History between 1800 and 1946. On August 12, 1883, in Mexico, Jose Benilli photographed hundreds of dark objects crossing the sun while observing sunspot activity. Between 1896 and 1897, multiple newspapers starting in California and later including the Midwest reported strange airships with bright lights, cigar-shaped bodies, movable wings, and metallic hulls. In 1897, in Aurora, Texas, a gentleman by the name of S.E. Hayden reported the crash of an airship piloted by aliens. Apparently, the alien was buried in a local cemetery, and this is a plaque to that burial. In 1904, in the North Pacific, 3 bright red objects with a geometrical formation flight pattern was observed. It continued for about 2 minutes. It had a horizontal flight pattern that angled upwards. The 1904 reporting was reported by the USS Supply. Please don't confuse this story with the mackerel fishing boats in the North Pacific, who use red light to attract the mackerel. In 1907, one night in Albania, fighters were stationed high on the top of a mountain, and a shiny object flew in front of them, stood suspended in the air for several minutes, then disappeared. In 1909, moving and whirring lights were reported in the sky in New Zealand. In 1926, Nicholas Roerich spotted a UFO during his expedition in Tibet. In 1933, Frank Smythe encountered 2 spots hovering and pulsating in the sky during his Mount Everest expedition. In the 1940s, during World War II, Foo Fighters, which were European pilots, reported colorful balls of lights following their aircraft at high speeds. According to the daughter of Reverend William Huffman, in 1941 he gave the last rites to a dying alien crew after their spaceship crashed. In 1942, radar picked up an unusual aerial object in the early morning hours. Spotlights and anti-aircraft artillery was fired at that object, and no trace of it has ever been found. In 1942, at a Missouri flying school, the control tower observed a couple of reddish-colored round objects descend, hover, and then accelerate away. In 1944, the 468th Bomber Group over Sumatra saw a intense red-orange color object that followed them for 8 minutes, and no matter what evasive maneuvers they did, it stuck with them for 8 minutes. In 1945, a UFO crashed in New Mexico. However, that site has also been identified as the first atomic bomb detonation testing. And most likely the United States government prefers that people believe things are UFOs when they're doing military testing. In 1946, Scandinavia and other parts of Europe reported ghost rockets. So this was right after the end of World War II, and a lot of countries were testing the German rockets that were recovered. Ängelholm, Sweden, in 1946, Gustav Carlson had a UFO encounter, and he built a commemorative monument to that UFO. History from 1947 to present day. In 1947, Kenneth Arnold identified 9 saucer-like aircraft flying in formation near Mount Rainier. And this started the phrasing flying saucers. I don't know if this is just the difference between 1947 and 2025, but that doesn't look like a saucer to me. It looks like a crescent moon. It looks like a blade of a sword. It looks like a boomerang, but it doesn't look like a saucer to me, so I'm not sure why he called that a saucer. And Arnold's claim started a UFO craze nationwide, and hundreds of reported sightings were recorded just in the rest of the year. And these are some of the ones that were reported and where they were reported. I did not look these up, and I'm not going to look all of them up. If you want to slow the video down and look them up, go for it. But there's just way too many of these reports. Now, interesting theories have come about as to why so many sightings happened in 1947 and since 1947. One of the main beliefs is that when the United States dropped the atomic bombs on Japan, it caused basically a signal to all alien species that Earth is a planet that we need to keep an eye on, and that's what the theory is as to why all of this happened after World War II. So sightings have continued all the way through to present day. However, only about 29 countries have reported sightings. What causes just some countries to have sightings and activity and others to not have any activity? Is it due to the environment is too harsh, such as the Arctic Circle and the Antarctic or the Sahara Desert? Or is it because there's no support in the community or in that country for any type of aliens or spaceships or UFOs? I read something interesting that said that we only have sightings in countries that have a community or an organization that supports UFOs. So here's a list of the organizations throughout the world. So these individual organizations support the fact that there are aliens as well as there are spaceships from other galaxies. The mass media's impact. Well, I think we have to look at the fact that human beings had limited methods to communicate for most of the existence of human beings. The radio wasn't even invented until the late 1800s and started showing up in homes in the 1920s. And for the first time in 1923, we had this methodology to do mass communications to hundreds of thousands of people through radio broadcast. And in 1938, Orson Welles did a fake broadcast of Martians attacking called War of the Worlds. That's based on a British novel, which caused some hysteria that has been exaggerated by the written press because they were in competition with radio. No one died, and the hysteria was not as bad as everybody reported it. but Orson Welles had to apologize the next day. I have to wonder here in the United States if the United States government does cover up anything related to UFOs and aliens simply because of these newspaper articles that reported all of this hysteria and confusion and things of that nature. In 1949, a Spanish language version of War of the Worlds was broadcasted in Ecuador. So, of course, this also caused panic and fear from Martians landing. But when they realized it was fake news, they were so upset. They rioted on the radio station, burned it down, completely destroyed it, and apparently 7 people were killed. Televisions became the next major broadcasting tool that allowed us to reach massive amount of people. Early television started in the 1920s and 30s. TVs became much more prominent and much more widespread after World War II. And of course, today we have the internet. And each individual that has access to the internet has access to the world. What negates belief? What causes us to not believe aliens exist? Well, for me personally, it's the lack of variety in descriptions. Why do they all look humanoid? Most of the species on planet Earth don't look humanoid. So why is there this presumption or lack of imagination to believe that the only intelligent beings out there are humanoid? I think Star Wars is probably one of the best examples of the diversity of what's actually out there in outer space. And yet, we're such simple-minded people that we believe that you have to have human instincts or humanoid looks in order to be intelligent. So that narrow-mindedness causes me to not believe the people who say, oh yeah, it looks like this. The other thing is so often these reports are coming in from, at least here in the United States, I don't know about the rest of the world, but they come in from locations that are near United States military bases. So the second you're reporting any type of mysterious being or mysterious flying object near a military base, I'm assuming it's the military. I'm not assuming that it's aliens from outer space. Militaries are just notorious for camouflage, sneak attacks, ambush. They will do whatever they have to do to conceal themselves for the attack or for the defense. So if it's near a military base, assume it's the military. The next thing that causes me to struggle with this whole thing of aliens on Earth is the alien abductions. I don't know what's real and what's not real because I feel like some people are just jumping on bandwagons. Oh, I want you to believe me, so I'm going to tell my story just like that other person told their story. It was a beam of light that came down and I was pulled up into the ship. You went through all these medical probes and then all of a sudden you're back on Earth. What drugs were you taking? A psychedelic hallucinogen? Too much alcohol? Too much stress? Not enough sleep? I guess my biggest problem with this is that why would they allow you to live? If you tell your story, then the very planet that they're invading could start taking arms against them. Why wouldn't they do what most scientists do and just put you in a freezer to keep studying you for years? It makes more sense to me to claim that a great white shark is an alien from outer space. They tend to be territorial, they do not do well in captivity, and they devour earthlings. There you have it. There's your alien. But I think you can see that my skepticism is more in the stories that I'm hearing about aliens and spaceships. I'm not trusting the source of who's saying, yes, aliens exist, I had an encounter. Did you really have an encounter, or are you just jumping on a bandwagon of someone else's story? And they made up that story. So what is real? I'm not convinced the stories are real. Sensors on these planes would alert the pilots to take evasive action. And I know you go, oh, but the plane sensors can't detect this. Part of the plane sensors are the pilot's eyes and the flight crew's eyes. What supports belief? That's very simple. The multitude of universes and galaxies and stars and planets and everything that is out there supports belief. It is incredibly, obnoxiously arrogant to believe that we are the only species in existence. Human beings aren't even the only species in existence on this planet. Needless to say, in this whole vast space, we have on Earth species that are capable of not only surviving but thriving in freezing environments and thriving in dry, hot environments. Species that exist in carbon dioxide, non-oxygen environments. Think about how many conflicts we have on this planet. Now recognize that we messed up Earthlings managed to put a rover on Mars. In other words, we invaded another planet. And when we did this, that's when I began to believe that maybe there is life out there. Have I ever had an experience? The only thing I ever experienced was earlier this year. I live out in the country, so I don't have a lot of light interference from cities. I was sitting on my patio and I looked up, and all of a sudden I saw what in the olden days would have been a shooting star, but I knew it was a satellite, or suspected it was a satellite. But then it dropped down 90 degrees straight down. Then it went right back up to where it was, and then it went backwards where it came from and disappeared completely. But I didn't think it was an alien spaceship. What I thought was, oh great, the government just took a picture of my sorry ass on my patio. Or that was a Google satellite that just took a picture of me. So much for privacy on private property. So in conclusion, what do we end up with? Well, the facts are, we have theories, we have speculation, we have stories, we do have scientific facts. A lot of galaxies, universes, planets, stars exist. And odds and probability are on our side that there's aliens out there with spaceships. But we also have a lot of imaginative people who create stories and create pictures and create footage. I do feel like most governments have done some investigations into this, because we know that in outer space there's a lot more resources that we may need. And because of that, they probably are looking to see if there's life out there that will resist us taking those resources. So I think the governments do know more than what they're saying, but I also think they don't know enough, and that's why they're not saying anything. But I'm also concerned that if the private sector conquers outer space, they're going to have a universal monopoly, and that could become problematic for future generations of Earthlings. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. And thank you to Jim Riley for the music for this channel. And thank you for watching Paranormal, True or False.